Minnesota's story is the story of indigenous civilizations, European explorations, territorial expansions, immigration, conflict, industrial development, political change, and cultural growth. Long before Minnesota became a state, native peoples lived throughout the region and developed society suited to its forests, lakes, rivers, and prairies. Later, European traders and explorers entered the area, followed by American soldiers and settlers. During the 19th century, Minnesota developed rapidly through farming, logging, milling, railroads, and mining. In the 20th century, became increasingly urban and industrial and later emerged as an important center of medicine, technology, politics, and culture. Human occupations of the region now called Minnesota goes back thousands of years. Some of the oldest known human remains in the state date to approximately 9,000 years ago. Archaeological discoveries show that early inhabitants hunted large animals during and after the last glacial period. As the climate changed and large animals such as mammoths disappeared, people adapted by hunting smaller animals, fishing, and gathering nuts, berries, and other plants. Around 5000 BC, indigenous peoples near Lake Superior were working native copper into tools, knives, and spear points. Over time, indigenous communities created increasingly complex societies and trade networks. Archaeological evidence at the Jeffers petroglyphs site in southwestern Minnesota shows a native presence dating back several thousand years. Burial mound construction began 4 centuries before European arrival, and thousands of mounds eventually existed across the region. Pipe stone became especially important because native peoples quarried this distinctive red stone for ceremonial pipes. The site became sacred to many tribal nations and has continued to hold cultural importance into modern times. While rice became an important food source in the region, while farming traditions, including the cultivation of corn further south, supported permanent settlement. Europeans began exploring the area. Dakota communities were among its principal inhabitants. The Dakota name for the region is commonly translated as the land where the water reflects the skies. The Ojibwe, also known Anishinaabe, migrated westward into the region and established themselves particularly in northern Minnesota. Other indigenous peoples also had historical connection to different parts of the area. Minnesota's very name comes from Dakota language, demonstrating the deep indigenous influences on the state's identity. European involvement began largely through French exploration and fur trade during the 17th century. Fairy, Esprit tradition, and metallurgy Brazilians were among the early Europeans to enter the broader Lake Superior region in the late 1650s. French missionaries and traders followed, including Claude Alois and Daniel Dessalon, Sire de Haut, for whom the city Duluth was later named. French traders depended heavily on relationships with indigenous communities who supplied furs and possessed detailed knowledge of the land and waterways. In 1680, French missionary Louis Anifin traveled into the region and encountered the waterfall later known as St. Anthony Falls. His later published descriptions exaggerated the size of the falls, but his writings helped increasing European awareness of the upper Mississippi region. During the 18th century, exploration continues as Europeans search for trade routes and geographic knowledge. Port Powerhouse was built on Lake Pepin in 1721, and the Grand Fortress route became an important part of the North American fur trade. American exploration increased after the United States gained control of much of the region. Expeditions mapped rivers, investigated natural resources, and established claims to territory. Handy schoolcraft, guided by Ojibwe, later Ojibwe reached a lake, the name Lake Itasca, in 1832 and identified it as the source of Mississippi River. Joseph Nicollet later carried out extensive survey of the upper Mississippi basin and surrounding territory. Such expeditions helped transform Europe's and America's knowledge of Minnesota's geography. A major turning point came with the construction of Fort Snelling. The United States acquired land at junction of Minnesota and Mississippi River in 1805, and construction of the fort began in 1819. Completed in 1825, Fort Snelling became an important American military force and a symbol of federal authority in the region. It also helped stimulated settlement and economic development around the what later became Minneapolis and St. Paul. Minnesota had been a state for only 3 years when the American Civil War began in 1861. Governor Alexander Ramsey quickly offered troops to President Abraham Lincoln. More than 24,000 Minnesotans served in the war. Nearly 3,000 died from the wounds or diseases. The 1st Minnesota Infantry Regiment became particularly famous for its role at Battle of Gettysburg in July 1863, ordered to attack a much larger Confederate force. The regiment suffered enormous casualties but helped delay the Confederate advance at a critical moment. At the same time, Minnesota experienced the Dakota War of 1862, years of land loss, broken promises, declining access to traditional hunting territory, delayed government payments, and court shortages had created several hardships among the Dakota. Violence began in August 1862 and expanded into a 6-week conflict between Dakota fighters, settlers, and U.S. forces. Hundreds of people were killed and thousands were displaced. After the war, hundreds of Dakota men were tried. President Lincoln reduced most of the death sentences, but 38 Dakota men were executed at Mankato on December 16, 1862, the largest mass execution in U.S. history. Many Dakota people, including non-combatants, were imprisoned and later expelled from Minnesota. After the Civil War, Minnesota entered a period of rapid population growth. European immigrants arrived in large numbers, including Germans, Norwegians, Swedish, Irish, Finns, Polish, and others. Railroads encouraged settlement by advertising farmland and providing transportation between farms and markets. The Homestead Act also contributed to agricultural expansion. Minnesota's population about 439,000 in 1870, tripled during the following 2 decades. Agriculture became one of the foundations of Minnesota's economy. Railroad connected farms with Minneapolis, Saint Paul, Duluth, and market outside the state. Minneapolis became especially important because of flour mine. Water flour from St. Anthony Falls operated mills, while technological innovations improved the processing of spring wheat. By 1900, Minnesota mills were running with a significant share of the nation's grain. Companies such as Pillsbury and Ojibwe Crosby, later associated with General Mills, helped make Minneapolis one of the world's leading flour milling centers. Northern Minnesota developed another major industry, iron mining. Southern mine opened in 1884, and major deposits were later developed in the Vermilion, Mississippi, and Keweenaw ranges. The Mississippi ranges became especially important because its ore was relatively easy to extract through open pit mining. Railroads carried ore to Duluth and to Howard, while ships transported it through the Great Lakes to steel producing regions further east. Mining transformed northern communities and contributed to Duluth's development as a major port city. Industrialization changed Minnesota's social and political life as people moved into cities. State, local governments took greater responsibility for transportation, consumer protection, banking, insurance, public health, and utilities. Labor organizations also became more influential. During the Great Depression, Minnesota suffered unemployment, agricultural difficulties, and layoffs in the mining industry. Governor Lloyd P. Olson supported public works, unemployment relief, mortgage protection, and other reforms. Federal New Deal programs, particularly the Civilian Conservation Crops, provided employment and supported conservation projects across the state. Technology became another important Minnesota industry. Engineering Research Associates, Control Data Corporation, and work of computer engineer Seymour Cray helped establish the Twin Cities as an early center of computing. IBM developed a major presence in Rochester. Honeywell became prominent in control and military technologies, and Medtronic grew from a small Minneapolis company into a major medical device manufacturer. The Mayo Clinic in Rochester likewise developed into one of Minnesota's most important medical institutions. Minnesota has also played an important role in American politics. Herbert Humphrey served as mayor of Minneapolis, U.S. senators, and vice presidents, and became nationally associated with civil rights legislations. Eugene McCarthy became a prominent opponent of the Vietnam War, while Walter Mondale served as senator and vice president. Minnesota's history is therefore for more than the story of becoming a state. begins with thousands of years indigenous life and continues through exploration, settlements, war, migration, industrialization, political reform, technological innovations, and cultural change.